Hey, Austin, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Asher.
For anyone who doesn't know you, who do you say you are?
Yeah, so I always introduce myself. I'm Austin Perkins. I'm from Louisville, Kentucky. Was born in Tupelo, Mississippi. Pretty small town. Been up in the South pretty much my whole life, really. 2005, Hurricane Katrina happened, and moved a lot of people up from the Biloxi, like South-ish area of Mississippi, and pretty much moved my entire family up to. My dad had an opportunity, and we all moved from Tupelo all the way up to Louisville, Kentucky in 2005. And pretty much ever since then, I relocated down to Nashville in 2020 or 2020, I should say. That's still correct. But yeah, I live in Nashville and I'm in talent acquisition, and yeah, just trying to live this life and do the best that I can every day.
Awesome. What was it like growing up in Louisiana before the Hurricane Katrina
Yeah, yeah. So growing up in Mississippi, it's like
or Mississippi?
it's
My bad.
no, you're okay. It's very close. Don't get me wrong. In Mississippi, it's I always say it's probably, and this is no disrespect to anyone from Mississippi, but I run into a lot of Mississippians, as they call it,
Mhm.
and they always tell me the same thing. I see that you got out, right? And it's always kind of been the same dialogue. Mississippi is a great state. It has a lot of things to give you, kind of what you're looking for. But in the same kind of sense, I grew up there, kind of, right? I've spent 9 years of my life there, and I knew that a lot of my family members there, and a lot of a family from personal speaking, it was no point in me staying in Mississippi to get to where I'm at today. I know
Mhm.
if I stayed in Mississippi, I would not be speaking to you today. No chance.
Wow. Is it so? It's one of those. If you don't leave, you never leave.
If you don't leave, you'll never leave. You'll never be able to realize what's out there. It's easy to get trapped in Mississippi.
Yeah.
A lot of my family are down there, and not to say that they're trapped, but it's just like you get accustomed to a way of life and a way of living, and it's almost like that hometown feeling. You don't want to leave. You don't know what's better than what you have, so you
Yeah.
rather keep what you have rather than venture out and see what else is out there or explore.
Right. Right. I've heard it said it's you're always encouraged to leave because you can always come back. Because if you don't leave, then it's like you almost have no incentive to leave unless you something really forces you out.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to actually, when I graduated college, I looked at some places, looked at moving back home, moving to Dallas, Texas, moving back to Arkansas. I have family in Arkansas, moving back
Mm.
home, Mississippi. But I realized that it was probably best for me to go back to my parents for a year and or two and figure out what my next best move was, and that's what brought me to Nashville. So it's been a journey for sure.
Mm. So I guess what was school like for you growing up in Mississippi? Like what kind of friends did you keep?
Yeah, yeah, that's an interesting question. So funny enough, Asher, as you know, I'm very social and very outgoing. I didn't have that personality when I was in elementary school. I got bullied a lot, believe it or
Mm.
not. I got bullied all the time, and I was made fun of and teased on a lot. I used to have two huge buck teeth in the front of my right here, and I
Mm.
used to have a gap right here,
Mm.
and that gap, man, I used to, the kids used to just pick on me and tease like crazy. So the friends that I had were kind of, I was more part of the nerdy group, if that's what you
Mm.
want to call them. When I was a kid, and honestly, it helped shape me, kind of realize what I could do to even to this day. So a lot of my friends when I was growing up in Mississippi, those friends, what they looked like were people in my neighborhood. I became really close with some of my family members down there and extended cousins and so on and so forth. And I even got in touch with one of my best friends when I was in Mississippi. I got
Mm.
in touch with him within the last 6 7 years. It's been so long ago, but we reconnected up in Hendersonville, which is about 30-ish minutes from where I live right now. And it
Mm.
was it was a great experience to getting to actually hear someone that's still graduated from my hometown area and coming back years and years later. I'm
Yeah.
friends with all these people on Facebook still, and we don't hardly ever keep in touch. But when we do have the opportunity, it's always just nice revisiting those conversations and honestly just trying to keep that friendship going.
Mm. That's awesome.
Yeah, man.
I guess it's interesting. I think when you think about America, usually Mississippi's always like the stepchild or the forgotten child, where they're like everybody kind of piles on and just like, no, there's nothing good there. Like,
I will double down and agree with that statement. Unfortunately, I I don't want to bash Mississippi for what it is because there's a lot of people that are proud to be from Mississippi. Don't get me wrong, but
mhm,
it's very backwards down there. Mississippi is one of the most backwards states that I can think of in the entire country. You
mhm,
can go down to Mississippi and there's nothing going on in the entire state.
yeah,
The biggest city is Jackson, and you get outside of that city, you got college towns like Hattiesburg, you have Starkville,
mhm,
where Ole Miss is at. I can't remember what town that is, but you have a lot of those areas, and they're just more like college towns, and they're great, right? But
yeah,
it doesn't really exemplify what the state really has to really offer, or really kind of shows what it is. And you're
right,
right. It does seem like the armpit of America, or like you said, this ugly stepchild. But there's some beautiful aspects to it. But personally, being from that state, people are like still in shock that people are like living there or
right,
born
right.
there. A lot of you hardly ever meet anyone from Mississippi. I don't know if you ever have, but
Not
I haven't
maybe
met that
like one
many
or two
people.
here and there.
Exactly, I haven't met that many people that I knew from Mississippi. I
Yeah,
haven't met that many people living in Nashville. So it's a very small state, and there's a lot of great things to it. Don't get me wrong, but I've always seen the negatives being highlighted a lot more than the positives, unfortunately.
right, right. I think I've heard maybe it's Joe Rogan saying that a lot of times when people talk about like inner cities or just like states like Mississippi that might not be doing so well. And we always talk about, I guess with this being like an election season, people
Yeah,
decide to like take a closer look at like, oh, what are the problems? What can we do? And it's like, well, one of the easiest things you could do is have less losers. Like if the weakest link or the people that are worst off would be in a better position, like it would make the overall look a little bit better. But I found it interesting and kind of neat that growing up where you grew up, you still had like your nerdy friends. It's not like nerdiness isn't secluded to like California or
right.
like people. I guess wherever you are, you always seem to find your type of people. So it's like you'll always find like your in crowd. And like I kind of grew up among the nerds as well, where it's like you had a good mix of the bunch. You had international students, students from Mexico, students from just different groups, and it is always like you have the I don't know if you call it like the rascal group or like the mixed bunch, where
Yeah,
like every now and then it kind of fly too close to the sun, trying to hang out to the next to the cool kids, and then it's
yeah.
like, no, 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 it's like
But
those aren't your
you're going too
guys. It's like,
fast. You're going too fast.
yeah, it's like go hang out with your group. It's like
Yeah,
remember the people that brought you to the dance and appreciate them.
you're right. You're exactly right.
So what was it like? I guess it was age 9 when you moved to Kentucky to
Yeah,
Louisville.
yeah. I can tell you a lot more about that one.
What was that like?
Man, that was man. I was talking with my girlfriend about this the other day. Actually, how I grew up. Um, so we were technically living in Saltillo, which was in Mississippi, and
Mm,
then we moved to Oldham County, which is right outside of Louisville, Kentucky.
mm,
Um, I usually can't claim Louisville since I'm not from Louisville, but
mm.
I just say it since it's a near city.
Yeah.
But if anyone has a question problem, I'm from Oldham County. Let me
Mm,
clarify. But with that being said, Oldham County has it's one of those areas where predominantly white, 70-75%. The other percents are mixed up between Hispanic, African American. So you're dealing with a lot of that
mm,
already. And then you're coming into a very affluent type background of a city, or I guess demographic of a county, I would say,
mm,
area. It's like a suburb of Louisville.
mm,
And growing up there, I realized that a lot of the time when I was there, making friends, and it was genuine friends, right?
Mm.
And coming from the South, I'm used to Southern hospitality, but I learned quickly that being in that kind of environment really shines when they're not there. When
Mm.
they're then that Southern hospitality is not there.
Oh wow.
Um, and I'm not saying that the people in Oldham County were mean or anything like that.
Mm.
That's not the case. But I was a part of a lot of groups. I actually ventured out. Growing up there, I got into sports. I was playing basketball
Mm.
for the middle school team. I didn't never play basketball before,
Mm.
so it was my first time ever. I used to skateboard, so I was doing all these cool things. And then I got into basketball my seventh grade year, and that's when I really started to see kind of some bias racially. I started to see a little more people coming out of their shell, treating me a certain way,
Mm.
looking at me a certain way, and those conversations were very like elementary then, right? Like
Mm.
you didn't really see like the systemic hardship that that would put on a child at that early age that would kind
Yeah.
of overlap or kind of really shape how you're viewed your entire life, really.
Mm.
Um, and it's really interesting. But starting off, I was a part of the jocks. I was part of the popular crowd. I won prom king my senior year of high school. I had a good chunk of, and everyone knew me in high school, and I had a good understanding about everyone really, and
Mm.
I loved my high school experience. There's some things I would like to change, but
Mm.
growing up there, it was very eye opening. And I like to say that if you can play a part in serving someone's life, just make it a pleasant part in someone's life. And
Mm.
I had cases of that. I had cases of the opposite.
Yeah.
So I saw all of it really. And I'm glad I was able to see that, because in Mississippi, there was no chance I was saying that I was only going to see one aspect, one perspective. Never
Right.
what I saw, in Louisville or in Oldham County, I should say. So I'm really, really blessed to be able to experience what I've saw. But growing up there was just an absolute eye opener for
Mm.
sure.
And I guess that's really kind of peak time for you because you kind of crossed over from adolescence into your teen years, or I don't know if those are used interchangeably, but
Yeah. Yeah,
it's
you
like
can.
you're going up like middle school, high school, and for me, like I grew up for the most part in North Georgia. Like I came to the US at age 7, and it's like I spent a little bit of time in Cleveland, Tennessee. And initially when we were thinking Cleveland, or when you reference Cleveland to someone, if you don't say Tennessee, they think Cleveland, Ohio.
Yeah, right.
But it's like growing up in Dalton, it's like going through middle school and high school. It's like, okay, well, this is the town that I can claim. I can't really claim where I was born because it's like you only remember so much,
You
and
remember so much.
the longer you're further away from it, it's like I don't really know too much about it.
Right.
So
I like
then
your. I know what you're talking about. I've been to Dalton multiple times, so I know exactly where you're at, and down in
mm,
North Georgia. Very
what
familiar with that
what
area.
brought you down that way?
Well, I had a previous relationship that had family in the North Georgia, Chattanooga area. So
Okay,
for holidays, we were always down there, really.
nice.
But that's kind of the we go through now of my current relationship. My girlfriend and I, we always drive down through there to go to Georgia. Her dad lives down in that area, so not in
Mm,
Dalton, but closer to Atlanta. So we usually
gotcha.
drive through Dalton.
Nice. So I guess with how you grew up in Odom County, or am I saying it correct?
Yeah, you're perfect. That's saying it right. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Like the way you grew up there, that was different from Mississippi. Were you still encouraged to like go explore away from home, or did you stick around for college?
It's funny because in Oldham County, it gives the same thing, right? It's the same kind of vibe that you were getting in Mississippi. You can stay,
Mm.
right? Except you're living in a bigger city, give or
Mm.
take. You're living from you're an hour from Lexington, Kentucky. You're not too far from Bowling Green, which is where I went to school, Western
Mm.
Kentucky University. But ultimately, yes, you see a lot of those people that stay home, stay closer to home, because again, that's all they know.
Yeah.
The only difference is in Mississippi is it's not as progressive as Louisville, Kentucky is, or Kentucky
Mm.
as itself,
Right.
right? You
Right.
have Kentucky, you have molten, bustling cities, right? But
Mm.
Jackson, I don't know anything about Jackson to be honest. I've always just heard about what's bad down in Jackson or what's not happening in Jackson.
Right.
When you look at Kentucky, you have multiple other cities, and this could be again kind of like in your situation. you could just be like, hey, you know what? Maybe I just don't know much about that city. Maybe I
Yeah.
don't know what's going on down there. Maybe I shouldn't really speak on it if I don't know too much.
Mm.
So I'm glad you asked about that question. You have the opportunity to explore in Louisville. You don't have that opportunity to, you have to kind of take it and seize it when you get the opportunity. Like
Mm.
I said, I graduated from Western Kentucky in 2018, and I moved back home with my parents for probably 2 years,
Mm.
and was at home for a year, and then I got out and lived in a house with a friend for about another year, and that's kind of when I realized there's nothing here for me. There's
Mm.
absolutely nothing for me. And that's kind of what gauged me to really look into moving to Nashville, moving to Dallas, one of those two options. And I picked Nashville because it's not too far from family, but it's a
Mm.
central location. And I got family from every direction: Kentucky, my parents, my other extended family in Nashville, and
Mm.
in Georgia and Mississippi and in Arkansas. So I'm well rounded by family. But, it's, I always like saying that I never would have known this life that I would have lived if I never would have taken a risk in leaving my
Right.
parents' home, or, really live, getting out of that city. I have no qualms or anything with Louisville, Kentucky. I think it's a great city. It's
Mm.
just not a city that I think I want to live in for the rest of my life. And it's the same thing, and the same constant, and the same beat all the time. And a lot of people love that. I
Right.
just don't think that's something, that beat is for me. That kind of same vibe is for me. I just can't. I can't do it.
Yeah. I guess what was your college experience like? Was it any different than like home life, or did you get into any trouble? I'm just
no,
kidding.
I didn't get into too much trouble. It depends on who you ask, because if you ask certain someone, they'll tell you, "Oh yeah, he was a handful." Nah, honestly, going to college. So I'll tell you something funny. Um, I didn't have plans of going to college. I didn't anticipate it. I'm a
Mm.
first graduation, or first generation college grad for my direct parents. My
Mm.
parents didn't go to school, so I was the first one. I'm an only child, so um, you know, when I graduated high school, I was like, well, I guess I'll work,
Yeah.
and that's all my parents taught me. That's all I know. So
Mm.
I went to work. I got a little job as a cashier at Dollar General in Oldham County, and I ended up realizing, I was like, man, this is kind of, I guess this is what life will be.
Mm.
But probably the first month of employment after I graduated high school, my friend was like, hey, like, so where you want to go to school? And I was like, I mean, school's not for me, man. Like that's not something that I'll be doing. No chance,
Mm.
right? And I had some really close friends that were pushing me, and they're like, dude, why don't you just come down to, just come tour this campus with me? It was one of my best friends. And he was like, come tour this campus with me. And, I had a chance to do that.
Yeah.
And I went down and toured Western Kentucky University. He and I went, and his mom, and I got signed up, and I was like, man, I'm probably not going to get accepted to this college anyway. So I don't even
Mm.
know why I'm even going. Got accepted. And I was like, well, how am I going to pay for it?
Mm.
Well, their financial aid kicked in, and I was like, oh, and that was a completely different life. And honestly, a lot of people will probably tell you, if you ask anyone from high school, they'll
Mm.
probably say, oh yeah, Austin's a nice guy, shy a little bit, but kind of quiet, but nice guy overall.
Mhm.
If you take that guy and put him in the college experience, it's just two different people.
Mm.
And you could do a side by side, and you're not seeing the same person. You're not. And I am so thankful that I went to school and my friend pushed me.
Mm.
I actually got to experience what college was all about, right? I
Yeah.
got on down my freshman year. I almost failed my freshman year. I almost got kicked off campus. I don't think my parents know that. But ultimately, I came back. I had to realize that I do a lot of learning and a lot of lessons, and honestly, a lot of teaching.
Mhm.
And it put me in a great position to be successful. I joined a fraternity down there, and I got involved on campus, and ultimately, made a great name for myself down at that university, and made relationships that still last to this day, that I still hold true and dear to me. People that I went to high school with, I'm still close with, but there's people in my high school class that I will never ever speak with again,
Mm.
and I'm closer with people from my college class or people from college, right?
Right.
And it teaches you how to going to college teaches you how to deal with a lot of things in real life, but it definitely teaches you very key aspects in life about what to do in certain scenarios or just how to live on your own or do things on your own. Teaches you how to be self-sufficient.
Yeah.
College for me was, man, it was amazing and I loved it. And I always think, man, I wish I could go back and live one extra memory or one extra moment. And it just taught me so much. And that's ultimately what I'm thankful for college.
Mm. I guess what would you say changed about you from the time you spent in high school to college? Because like you mentioned being in middle school, you played basketball. Did you get into other sports or like was there anything you looked forward to when you were in school?
Yeah, when I was going through high school, I mean, I played on the basketball team in high school, and I had some opportunities to play at the collegiate level. Nothing major,
Mm.
really small schools, and never took it seriously because I was like, I don't want to play college basketball. That's something I'm not interested in.
Mm.
So when I had the opportunity to just go to school as a student, I was like, okay, that's interesting. And I saw through it. And then I realized I came out of my shell. I
Mm.
realized that, oh, Austin bloomed into this great person that's completely different. I don't want to toot my own horn,
Mm.
right? But given
Toot
my
your own horn.
scenario and yeah, I mean, someone's gonna give me my flowers. Given my scenario and situation, I shouldn't be where I'm at today. My girlfriend and I were talking about this over the weekend, last weekend.
Mm.
I shouldn't be kind of where I'm at right now. And just the ability for me to be here is, man, it's great. And I'm just, what really changed, honestly, from high school to college was I started not to, I started to believe in who I am.
Mm.
And I started to kind of like follow through that mold of being myself and not trying to be someone who I'm not. I stayed
Mm.
true to who I am. I was this funny, loving guy that always had a smile and was very bright, but
Mm.
I never had a chance to actually talk through those and what that looked like for myself. And I was able to put that together and being social, also being helpful and friendly and nice.
Mm.
It just grew into this person that everyone wanted to be friends with and everyone wanted to know. Again, I don't
Mm.
want to sound like the guy that everyone doesn't like or anything like that. I don't want to sound like you know, someone who's, you know what I'm trying to get at. But
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
yeah, yeah. And I'm just, it was through college. A lot of people, I was very well known on college in college. And it's, I don't know what really changed. I think I just, me getting in social environments and being myself and being authentic really changed kind of the trajectory of my life. And it gave me a new perspective in how I act and who I am. And it's really interesting because old me in high school, there's no way I would be where I'm at, and there's no way I would have ever told you that I'd be where I'm at today if you asked me 10 years ago. No chance.
Gotcha. I guess would you say were you more of yourself in college as you were at home, like with your parents outside of school?
Yes and no. So at home and from school, I was a completely different child.
Mm.
When I was at home with my parents or at home with friends, personal friends, I was always going to be the same.
Mm.
But in a social setting, I was always going to be different. I was always going to try to be what everyone wanted me to be.
Mm.
I did never thought about being myself until I got to college, and that's when I started realizing that I can be myself. And then when I started to be myself, I
Mm.
started to see that same love that people poured into me. It's still being there, it's still being shown, and I was like, wow.
Mm.
Well, then all those years that I wasted trying to be, not trying to be someone else, but not being myself
Right.
in the
You're
same
almost
conversation.
trying to be something that you thought other people wanted you to be.
In some case, yeah, I never, and it was always, they always said, like, you ever try to fit in a crowd? I was like, no, I never wanted to fit in a crowd. I never wanted to be a part of a group or anything like that. But it was more
Mm.
so, oh yeah, I wanted to be myself. But it's like, if I be myself, no one's gonna like that guy. He's weird. He's shy. he's odd. He thinks differently. He thinks too hard. There's so much that we wouldn't want to be friends with him. And it's like, well, hang on a minute.
Mm.
You're in your head about that. Be yourself. And I did that in college, and it was, man, the college experience that I had was great. And I'm just so thankful that I got that confidence to go and be myself.
Yeah.
And now my parents see that self, my friends see that self,
Mm.
my peers see that self, see that in me. So it's great.
So I guess how did your parents and friends receive you like when you're like coming home from college and like eventually graduating? Were they like, "Oh, like when you this was you all along, like we're happy to see you in this light?"
Yeah, it was, and it's kind of like an underlying thing, right? Like a lot of people knew this was me, but it was also like, well, it's Austin. Like he's just quiet, he's shy, he stays at home, he doesn't really do much, right?
Mm.
So when my family came home and saw me being social, or the friends outside of my social group and from college or high school saw me being social, they're like, "Whoa, you're different. This was not the guy that we knew in high school. Whoa, like what's going on, right?"
Yeah.
And they were all like, "That's so weird," because like I can go and talk to a stranger all day. That's not a
Yeah.
problem. In high school, that's nerve wracking to me, right?
Mm.
And that's the difference. That was kind of like I just got the confidence to go and do that, and
Yeah.
that's ultimately what it came to. So my parents, they realized like, wow, well, my mom will claim, "Oh, you got that from me," but but I mean, I don't know what it is, but I just really been able to just, and I've always been able to do it too. That's the thing. It's
Yeah.
just I've never fully had confidence to go and do it.
Gotcha.
Right
Gotcha.
now, I had that. Now the confidence was instilled in me from my college experience. I'm able to go and have these social outings, these gatherings, and be around people in a social aspect and feel comfortable in being myself, rather
Mm.
than, oh, well, let me conform to what the group likes, or let me conform to what people already know of me, because your name gets around more than you do,
Right.
right? Your name is in more rooms that you'll never step in.
Mm.
So I knew, I was like, okay, well, I probably should stay. My name's in here. Everyone already knows and heard of me. So let me take lean, and let me take a step back and relax.
Yeah.
That wasn't the case. I
Mm.
didn't care what people had conceived of me. I didn't care what people thought of me. I just wanted to be myself. And a lot of the times, that preconceived notion of me
Mm.
shattered most people's ideas about me, and they really saw who I was, and that shined a lot.
Awesome. So then I guess aside from pursuing yourself and really becoming more of who you were without kind of like that internal judgment, like what was it that you were pursuing in college and what brought you back home to spend some time with your parents?
I couldn't tell you what I wanted to be when I
Mm.
graduated.
Gotcha.
I graduated college 2018 fall with a degree in psychology,
Mm.
and I'll even take it back 4 years prior. I think it was 2014. That
Mm.
summer, I asked my aunt, and I said, "This is my closest aunt, me and her closest."
Mm.
I said, "Hey, like I don't want to go to school for real, but I guess I just kind of have to go. But what's the easiest major? This stuff is hard. I don't want a challenge. I want something easy."
Mm.
And she goes, "Well, there's nothing easy about college." And I was like, "Well, then why am I going?" She goes, "Well, you've already kind of made a decision. Like, you need to go." And I was like, "Okay." So she was like, "You like talking to people. You like helping people. You're good at giving advice. Why don't you be a therapist?" And I was like, "Okay, it's not a bad idea."
Mm.
So I thought about it, and then I looked into it. I was like, you know what? That's exactly what I'll do. I'll go be a therapist. And so that
Mm.
was my goal. I was
Yeah.
chasing this idea of being a therapist in college.
Mm.
I was sitting in crisis stabilization programs. I was sitting in outpatient clinics for one-on-one therapy. I was doing all of it, man, and it was really eye-opening, that experience, because that gave me kind of like, okay, like this is something you can definitely do, and it never felt like work.
Mm.
It always felt like I'm just helping people, which it's, and I still do that.
Mm.
I still feel that way, but when I graduated
Mm.
and moved back home, I had this job. I worked at a company called Centerstone,
Mm.
and I was working with about 25 to 30 families that were, yeah, 25 to 30 families. They all had a kid.
Mm.
And the kid was they were referred for therapeutic intervention services. And so my job was to go home to home and go to school, and put some treatment plans, implement treatment plans and behaviors in place with working with some of these um, early childhood kids.
Mm.
So kids were ranging from 6 all the way up to like 11, maybe 12.
Yeah.
And that gave me, that was very fulfilling and rewarding. But as you know, being a therapist, you don't make any money. You don't make, it's hard. It's one of the most underpaid industries in this world. And for mental health being where we're at in today's time, with mental health being the most important thing, you would think that people that are providing that same work are getting compensated for that, and they aren't. They're not getting compensated the level of importance that people are saying that mental health is.
Right.
And that's my biggest, I will always be an advocate for mental health no matter what. Right, I will always, I've gone through my own battles. And I was chasing that passion when I came to realization that I can help people without having to, I can help people and still make money. And I was like, okay, well, let me look into that because I'm young, right? And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to grad school. I'm going to
Mm.
really do this. So I went to grad school for about half a semester during COVID 2020. I was working at a company called PharmaCord,
Mm.
and they are it's a it's very hard to explain, but I was working with pharmaceutical medications. I was never selling. I was working on the payer side, doing reimbursement for medication.
Mm.
And um, I was working there. I got like a $20,000 raise, $25,000 raise. It was great. And living in Louisville, that's a lot of money. I was like, okay, well, I earned this, and now I'm
Yeah.
earning this amount. And like, wow, this is perfect. Like, I bought myself a new car. Like, it was great, right?
Yeah.
Life was amazing. But then COVID hit,
Mm.
and man, that changed everything. I took a leave of absence from undergrad or from my master's program
Mm.
at University of Louisville. Took a leave of absence, and I went to. I was focusing in my career, and then my career wasn't the career that I wanted.
Mm.
And then that's when I was like, my parents were pushing me to go back to school, finish school, go back to school, go back to school, go back to school. And I was like, man, I don't want to go back to school. I'm 20, I think I'm 24 at this rate. I'm
Mm.
24. I don't want to go back to school and finish up 27, 28, getting into my career. Like, I don't want to be in that space. And the people that are doing that, more power to you, right?
Yeah.
That's for you. But for me, that's not me. I don't want to go and do that. So I realized I need to find something that benefits me. And so I had some friends in the recruiting and staffing industry. And I found a job here in Nashville after I relocated down here for probably down here for a month before I found something. And that's what I get that out of my job now. I help people,
Yeah.
and my field ties to it. And right now I'm working in the behavioral health side of things, right? I'm working with kids with autism, more meaningful work, right?
Yeah.
And it's great because I do what I'm good at what I do in talent acquisition.
Mm.
But the thing is, I'm not having to worry about not getting compensated or my pay because we all need to live. We all need to make a wage, but
Right.
it's not about money, but it's about being able to live
Yeah.
and live comfortably. And I wanted to be able to push that and have that. So that's what I was chasing, an idea of living comfortably. And man, I ever get it? Because now life, over the summer I was laid off, but now I have a new job and it's been great, and I love it. Right,
Yeah.
life couldn't be treating me more better than it is right now. So I'm really trying to enjoy it.
Mm. It's funny, just the way you describe your life. It makes me think of this Winston Churchill um, quote that I heard. I didn't realize that it was ascribed to him until today, and it was that um, I think they said success is being able to move from failure to failure without losing enthusiasm. And
Exactly
it
right.
seems like having a combination of that and good friends that you've been able to keep relationships with have really helped you in being able to move forward in life and not stay in a place that you know is not working for you?
I always like to say, I'm glad you brought that quote up because I had someone tell me recently, probably in the last year, that there is no such thing as failure.
Mm,
Either you win or you're learning.
yeah.
And I have absolutely taken that to the, by storm and really made that my motto over the last five months, truly. But, either you win or you learn.
Mm,
And for me, if I don't understand something or if I don't succeed in it, okay,
mm,
well, how can I? And I'm learning that process so I can win and I'm bettering myself to be in a position to win, right? And that's what I believe in, right?
yeah. I guess, how do you feel like you live best? Do you try to map things out like a month at a time, a day at a time, a couple years at a time?
Man, it's hard. I want to do a year out at a time, but you can't map things out. I learned that the hard way over the
Mm,
last 2 years, 3 years, really. You can't map things out. You
mm,
can't. You can't expect things to go the way that you plan for month and month and month in and month out. You can't. Things
yeah.
change by the snap of a finger. We're dealing with people ultimately,
Mm,
and people are some of the most unreliable things on the planet.
mm,
So you're expecting someone to go along with the plan that you put in place or that you have put in place with someone,
mm,
and the plan can go to foils just like that,
yeah.
right? And um, you know, I have my daily goals and my weekly goals that I keep track, and probably say that's probably my best part of planning for me. But as far as plan go, yeah, I have plans as where I want to be in 5 years. Where I want to be at career wise,
Mm,
relationship wise, financially, all of those things. Yeah, I want to. I have plans in that space, but day to day, I need to have a plan of getting up, being the best that I can, and creating goals that I can knock off and build a day, or I guess build a steady, consistent repetition of being successful daily. You be successful for a week.
yeah.
That's you. That means you've been successful for a full week. If you do
Yeah.
7 days of being, excuse me, successful,
Mm,
that's a successful week. Now
yeah.
imagine putting that together with a full month. So
Mm,
you've been successful out of one full month out of the entire year, and it's January, right?
yeah.
Okay, let's keep moving. You do to February, you do March, and compare your results from where you were at last year to this mark to where you're at today. And I guarantee you're going to see a different mindset, and you're going to
Yeah.
see a different place of where you're at mentally, professionally, all those things.
Mm. I guess what's it like being in the recruiting space, being in the like service, I guess, would you consider it a service based business?
You can. I mean, yeah, you can. It depends on what type of vertical you're in, but yeah, you can say that. I like being in the talent acquisition space. So there's two ways to put it. Recruiting and staffing is
Mm,
one area, and then you got the other area, which is like straight talent acquisition, and they're very different, right?
mm,
They seem like they're the same, but it's not. Um, I love being in this space, but what it looks like is you're helping someone find an opportunity or give them the opportunity that they've been seeking for a very long time and create an opportunity for them that helps them out long term, where it
right.
creates stability and growth for that person, right? And ultimately, you're helping people. I'll never forget this. My very first person that I ever put to work into this space. It was someone here in Tennessee, and I placed him at a company that does design work for metal buildings.
Mm,
And I'll never forget this story. I had a conversation with her, and I told her, "Hey, listen, we're gonna move forward with you and present you an offer." And when I said those two words, that phrase, Asher, I'm telling you, she started crying. I heard tears over the phone. That gave me so much, that fulfillment and that like rewardingness part, or I guess factor to it.
mm,
Man, I can't tell you like how happy that made me, like how much relief that I felt. I get connected to these people that I work with, and I understand their story and I relate a lot. So I'm like, man, I want to help them. And that's kind of what recruiting and staffing is. You get connected to a lot of people, you get connected to a lot of individuals, like how we got connected,
Yeah.
and you get connected into this marketplace of verticals. And man, you start networking, and then you start putting pieces and pieces together, and you build up this foundation where it's like, hey, like you're in this to help people, or
Mhm.
you're in this to make money for yourself, right? And you can do
Yeah.
both, right? But on the talent acquisition space, there's a lot more being a liaison between the company and the client, or the candidate in this case. And
Mhm.
you have to really learn how to balance that, and you have to think of the best interest for the company, and not necessarily the candidate in that aspect. And talent acquisition is I love it because I get to put my values of my company
Mhm.
up front and showcase that without
Mhm.
having to sell the position, without having to sell who we are. I
Mhm.
put some of the other things in front that I think that are important. And a lot of times that's what people love to hear is those key values, those key things that people want to hear. They love hearing that,
Yeah.
and talent acquisition, I get to do that. And I'm helping people, and I'm doing it in an industry that is highly in need. And it's an industry that's honestly rewarding in itself.
Yeah. Are you choosy with who you work with?
I wouldn't say I'm choosy. No, I will listen to any opportunity or all opportunities. However, I do believe in the right time and right place for an opportunity. And I think that you need to hear any and all options before you really write a company off or write something off. So no, I would say no to that.
Gotcha. But it's, I guess, sometimes is it difficult to let go of something or kind of make peace with, okay, this isn't going in the way that I need it to go or would like it to go, and it's like, okay, like just better that we go separate ways.
That's normal. That's normal in the staffing industry. You're going to
Yeah.
see that often. Man, the amount of people that I've said, man, this is a perfect job. This person will be great.
Mm.
And then boom, I need $90,000. And it's like, well, this role's paying 70,
Yeah.
right? And it's things like that. It's like, well, we can keep your information on file and yada yada and see what we can find. But
Mm.
those conversations is what spark the initial interest,
Mm.
right? And what creates that connection. So even if you don't have something for someone, and
Yeah.
yes, you're right, you do separate, but
Mm.
it's almost like it's like how can I word it? Think of you're looking for something. Let's say you have a plate
Mm.
and you have your meat and all your other options, and you're looking for your one other piece to go with your dinner. This is an awful analogy, so please excuse me. But let's say you're looking for like a roll, like a bread roll or something on your paper, on your plate or whatever.
Yeah.
And like, well, I don't want that roll, but I don't want that roll, but I do like those rolls, but I don't want those type of options. I want this option. And then you find it. And
Mm.
then that's when you enjoy it. Right. But you're not severing those connections or that your ideas to those roles. Right. You're just not
Yeah.
choosing them at the moment. And that's how
Mm.
recruiting is. You're not severing connections with that recruiter or that person in talent acquisition. You're just choosing what works for you right now.
Right.
Right. And I think that's kind of what gets misconstrued in our business is that a lot of people will say, well, you know what? This opportunity, I spent 2 weeks learning this person and getting to know them, and then they told me that they're not interested in this role anymore, or they accepted another opportunity. No
Mm.
big deal. The biggest thing is you have to understand is that just because I didn't choose you or choose that
Mm.
opportunity right now, that doesn't mean it's a no, right?
Right. Right.
And I believe in no just doesn't mean no doesn't mean no. It just means not right now, right?
Right. Right.
And that's how I see it. And you have to take it with that kind of mindset and that kind of idea so that you can position yourself better for success,
Mm.
right? Because in our world, when someone says no, okay,
Mm.
well, we'll revisit,
Yeah.
right? 6 months later, that person that you said no to could be helping you win in the staffing industry, could help you win a huge account, right? A huge client,
Mm.
or that person could help propel your company to the next level, right? And that's why relationships are so important in this industry. Never want to burn a bridge, but you have to be transparent and honest in this work. And I love it. It's
Yeah.
great.
What do you think people misunderstand about recruiting, or like you said, you pointed out a couple of things that I thought were pretty good there, because I guess how would you say, it's always funny when, like, if you don't have something if you don't have something in hand, like say if you're searching for a job and like you've had to take time away, it seems like you're in the desert just trying to find a drink of water. And then as soon as you do have a job, all of a sudden it's like everybody comes out of the woodworks, is like, "Hey, I've got this opportunity, I've got this, I've got that." And it's like, okay, is this really real, or is this person kind of like putting on, or are they coming back to me with the same thing over and over and over and over? It's like, what's going on here?
I think the biggest misconception in in staffing or talent acquisition, as I understand it, is probably if they don't have something. So let's say you're the candidate.
Mhm,
In our case, you're the candidate, and I was a recruiter,
mhm,
and I was probably recruiting you for a role in Georgia.
mhm,
There's a good chance if we didn't have something that if you can say, hey, if you didn't have that, okay, cool. Like I'm not interested in working with you. And
mhm,
that's ultimately the misconception of, oh, I don't work with recruiters,
mhm,
right? Or I don't work with people in that industry. I'm fine with getting my own job,
mhm,
right? And I'm here to debunk that.
mhm,
I think that there's nothing wrong with someone having access to a recruiter to help you propel your career. I like saying it's almost like having a realtor.
mhm,
It's like having someone who's in the car business,
mhm,
depending on your car salesman. Some of them are sleazy. It's like having probably a realtor or real estate agent is probably the best way to put it, right?
yeah.
You list when you sit down with a realtor and you say, "Hey, I want a 3,000 square foot house with 5 bedrooms, 4 bath. I want 9 foot vaulted ceilings. I want each bedroom to have its own bathroom and walk-in closet. I want a kitchen with dual ovens and dual microwaves and dual sinks. All this crazy stuff.
Mhm,
You're listing a lot, right?
yeah.
I want my own backyard, in-ground pool, all these things, right?
Mhm,
Basement, yada yada.
yeah.
You're telling your realtor this because that's what you want,
Right.
right? And you can take, and the realtor will be able to try their best to find it.
Right.
We're the exact same way as recruiters, especially in the staffing agencies and recruiting agencies. You're
Mhm,
going to see a lot more people as long as you tell them what you're looking for
mhm,
and try to tell them, hey, well, I want a company that gives me great benefits and PTO. I want a company that gives me that believe in these kind of values that are strong about DE and I want a company with female leadership.
mhm,
I want company. You can name so much on, but you get what I'm saying. The same
yeah.
things that you're listing that you want in your house, you're going to have the realtor go and look for. And that's exactly how these realtors are going to do, right? Or
Mhm,
not these realtors, these recruiters are going to do. They're going to do the exact same thing. And the good ones are going to keep searching and find that for you. And when they find it and they're going to put your name in the list, the
mhm,
good ones will keep your contact information. And when they'll give you a call, they'll say, hey, remember you said that you're looking for XYZ? Are you
mhm,
still looking for that? Because I have the opportunity for you, right? And I'm
right. Right.
telling you, that's what separates a lot of recruiters from just recruiters to like really great recruiters, right?
Mhm,
And that's what a lot of the misconceptions kind of get to in this industry as well. You don't have anything for me, you can't help me, which is
yeah.
not the case, right? And there's a lot of conversation to it. But I mean, I just say we're sports agents too. That was another good example too.
Mhm,
I have a candidate that I'm shouting from the rooftops how great he is, right?
mhm,
How great this candidate is. And I'm going to every company and I'm saying, hey, well, what do you think about this candidate? Well, what do you think about this candidate? You
yeah.
know, I'm trying to get the best deal for you, right?
Mhm,
And that's from my aspect. From your aspect, you want to treat me like I'm your realtor,
mhm,
and, right? And that's how we operate. And that's how it should be. And a lot of people don't understand that. We get a negative connotation. We're headhunters. We're always placing for a fee or placing for money. And
mhm,
you got to really know the company who's a recruiting agency for it. And then there's a lot more facts you got to know too,
yeah.
you know. But I mean, that's probably the biggest misconception, to be honest.
Got you. Have you ever had to have like a come to Jesus moment with someone to be like, "Hey, I know this is what you say you want, but I need you to do A, B, C, or D before you can get there." Because otherwise, it's like you've got this gap you're trying to cross, and it's like there's no bridge right there. So, like, I'm gonna make you look silly putting you in front of this group or this company that you want to go with, but it's like maybe consider this or maybe consider that, or just like, okay, well, maybe I don't come out and just tell you that, but it's like, okay, how does like do you have ways of
Yeah,
like asking people questions to help them kind of self-evaluate a little bit?
absolutely. Because here's the thing in recruiting, we're usually the subject matter experts here and understanding what the market's going to look like.
Mm,
And it's always best. I always encourage new grads, especially new grads that are in a technical field.
yeah.
There's a lot of recruitment in. I always encourage them to get with a recruiter. When I was recruiting in the civil engineering space
Mm,
about a year ago, I would in architecture, I would always tell new grads, say, hey, listen, I know you probably can get your job on your own, and that's completely fine. But
mm,
I'm here to help you gauge kind of what the market is going to look like for new grads, right?
right, right.
Let's create a connection and stuff like that. So I've had conversations with civil engineers specifically, and I remember all the time telling them, hey, listen, you just graduated from University of Alabama, you got your degree and you got your FE, you
Mm,
got your civil engineering degree, great.
yeah.
Here's the thing: you want $70,000 to $75,000 in Nashville.
Mm,
You might get 55, 60 from
mm,
a recruiting standpoint. Now, I know corporate companies are going to pay a lot more,
mm,
but from my understanding in Nashville, you're probably going to see around 50, 55, maybe 60, maybe
yeah.
65, right? So so as a recruiter, I always tell them, I say, hey, why do you think you, and not to be, crass or rude or anything, but
Mm,
why do you think you deserve $75,000 a year? You're fresh out of school. Why do you think you deserve that?
yeah.
Well, this is what my friend's getting, or this is what I've heard, and this is what it is. And then that gives them a moment to learn and teach right then and there, right? Hey,
Mm,
listen, here's what it's going to look like. You're going to
right.
earn 60, 65, depending on the market, and you might earn 55. Your entry level, you have your FE, so you're a good candidate. You've never designed anything in Civil 3D. You've
Mm,
never worked in any other project besides design projects. You don't have any professional experience.
mm,
A company that is going to invest $75,000 into you, entry level, to come in and hit the ground running. That's asking a lot, which is why they pay a lot lower than what they're
right.
paying at a higher level. And they ask, well, how do I get to that level? Well, you need experience. Well, you need to have these kind of projects done, and you need all this kind of stuff, right? And
Yeah.
you get a chance to really shine that light on them at an early part of their career, so you can kind of guide them and help them see kind of where they need to go for
Mm,
that career path. I've had so many conversations with them. When they're even astronomical numbers, I just sit down, I just stop them and say, "Why do you think you're worth that?"
mm,
Not even in a rude way. I'm just
right, right.
curious. Why do you think you deserve that amount of money? Just curious.
Yeah.
And they usually just tell me, well, I think it's this and it's the market and it's cost of living. And I'm like, well, here's what the market's showing.
Mm,
And here's what it looks like in XYZ. So I have that. I've had too many of those, man.
gotcha. That makes a lot of sense because it's like on the one hand, you could be thinking, okay, I deserve this amount of money because this is what the market says or what I've been told. But then you have to think of it from the company's perspective to where it's like, okay, the amount of money that I'm going to pay you is not just your salary, but it's the time that I'm investing in you to train you. And it's like, I put all this time into you for 6 months, a year, 2 years. It's like, what's to stop you from just getting up and going with the experience that I've given you and take it to the next company that
You're exactly right.
doubles your income or your value?
You're exactly right. Right. And that's kind of what these companies will sit on the back end and think. I'm making a $75,000 initial investment, not including what we're paying just to employ them. That's
Yeah,
another 25, 30 grand in its own. Right. So then throw that into effect. You're probably using close to 100 grand on a candidate who's 75 grand. It's like, what values are they providing me here
right,
that
right.
I can get out of somewhere else, right? And then, companies are going to make their best calls and best judgment on what they think, especially from a business standpoint. But
Mm,
that's why these companies aren't going to do that, right? And trust me, they know what they're doing. They're not going to waste money if they when they can.
yeah. You find a lot of people wanting to explore options further from home, or do people, or is it kind of like a time scale when you're fresh out, you want to go far, and then the older you get, maybe you're forming a family, you're like, okay, maybe I'll settle down somewhere, or is it just you go where the opportunities are?
I've seen people. Depends on the vertical and depends on where you're living.
Mm,
Here in the South, especially in Nashville, you're going to see people that want to either come here
Mhm.
or they're wanting to get out as fast as possible,
Yeah.
right? And usually, if they're stuck here, if they're from here, they're
Yeah.
probably going to stay here for a good chunk of their life. Let's just be real with it,
Yeah.
right? But the ones that like I've moved here, like I can't guarantee that I'm going to be here the rest of my life,
Mhm.
but I don't know what that's going to look like.
Right.
Um, but with that being said, I mean, things can change. Um, I've seen people come in from all the way from California here and leave within the next 9 months.
Yeah.
I I think people love the opportunity to relocate on their terms, not
Mhm.
the company's terms.
Gotcha.
I think people will move on their terms, not anyone else's terms, right? And
Yeah.
I think that's what it is. I know if I'm going to move to across the country, it's going to be on what I want.
Right. Right.
It's this, and this, and that's what these candidates are naming. And a lot of times they're not getting that, which is why a
Mhm.
lot of people aren't going to be moving for jobs. But the companies will pay what they need to get them there. So it just depends on the area and depends on what vertical you're asking as far as industry. But honestly, I see in my industry here in
Mhm.
the applied behavior analysis industry, I've seen more people want to stay in Tennessee rather than leave,
Yeah.
or they want to, um, they're moving to the area and
Mhm.
they want to find something. That's what I've been seeing. I haven't seen a lot of people that want to up and go somewhere or up and leave for work
Yeah.
in Tennessee. Like I haven't seen a lot of that honestly.
I guess do you feel like people that move to Tennessee, like Nashville, for example, do you get the sense that they're trying to become a part of a community, or do people kind of operate in their own silos, or kind of everyone does their individual thing?
All of it, every single thing you just said. Nashville is one of the hottest, in my opinion, one of the hottest cities in the country.
Mm.
There's so much community here. You
Mm.
have so many things to do. You have so many industries that are bustling. You have so many different markets that are just viable to live in and work in, right? You have all these things.
Yeah.
If you want to stay in your apartment and work all day and do that, you're more than welcome to.
Mm.
There are actually apartments in my area where if you want to run your own business from the apartment, you're more than welcome to. You just got to rent out the office space down in the on the first floor, and you can
Mm.
set up an office and have that as your own office, right? So
Wow.
you can work in solitude and live in solitude, right? You
Yeah.
can also do the opposite and work in there's WeWork spaces all over. You
Yeah.
can go and work at a community at a coffee shop and be in community there, right? You can do all of that. That's here, and ultimately, what it is that Nashville is appeasing to everyone, but it's also appeasing to every person that's every walk of
Mm.
life. Whether you're on the LG, if you're a part of the LGBTQ community, they have
Mhm.
that here. If
Yeah.
you're a different background and ethnicity, they have that access here. If
Yeah.
you're a part of a different group, I promise they have it here, right? There's so much community here, and the access to community is you can get access to that community within 2 days, right?
Mm.
So that's why I think Nashville's one of the best cities, and this is you see this a lot more in major cities, but
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to see it broad as much as well. You're going to see it here in Nashville.
Right.
You have I live in Franklin, right? You have Franklin, and you have Murfreesboro, you have Lebanon, you have Hendersonville, you have Gallatin,
Mhm.
the west side of the nations. You have far out areas like Spring Hill, Columbia, so many. I think like Jackson, Tennessee is about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours west between here and Memphis, right?
Mm.
You
Right.
have communities like that. So, man, Nashville is just it's growing and it's so wide here, and that's why I say you can't fail here,
Yeah.
right? You can't like there's too much structure for someone to be successful in here to not go and do, no matter the vertical you work in.
That's awesome. So I get like, what's something you're looking forward to this year, like as the season's changing, or what's something that you've enjoyed so far?
I'll tell you what, one of the things I've probably enjoyed the most. Um, that's a really good question. I'll tell you what I'm looking forward to next year, and then what I'm interested this year, and then I'll also
Mm.
tell you what I've enjoyed this year.
Okay.
So, what I've really enjoyed, or I guess what I'm looking forward to for the rest of this year, honestly, getting more around some friends that actually enjoy being around me and likewise.
Mm,
So I'm looking forward to that and getting those fellowships going and those friendships and relationships, getting them more solid and stuff like that. Those are my things. I'm into fitness, so I'm trying to keep that under control as well. And
mm,
then next year, I'm really looking forward into progressing in my relationships with my friends and with other people close to me. I want to progress in other areas of my life, in other communities that I'm in.
mm.
But honestly, what I've enjoyed this year, I'll give a shout out to my girlfriend. She has really held me up this year. I
Mm.
told you earlier I got laid off in probably I got laid off in June, and man, that was brutal.
Yeah.
Uh, my girlfriend held me down, man. That's my woman, man. She absolutely took care of me mentally, you know, as a friend and just there as a person, not as
Mm,
just my partner, but my person. Like she was there and helped me through the hardest time of my life, right? And I owe nothing but gratitude to her and appreciation.
mm.
So this year, what I've really enjoyed is just all the time that I've had with her and just honestly just learning from her in that aspect and realizing what's being selfless looks like. And she showcased that to the highest degree over the summer. But it even like she always has been that way, but she's she did it to a light into a level where it's almost like, wow, like that's unheard of. And it was just second nature to her. And that's how I know I got a good one right there, right? So I'm gonna ride that as long as I can. She's gonna have to kill me to get rid of me. But I mean that's that's my woman, man. I love her to death, and I'm just so thankful that she was able to take care of me this summer. But that, and then my friends being there for me, and then my family, of course, my parents being a huge support for me as well, and I can give them all the praise in the world, but I've done that for 28 years, right? So they've
Yeah.
heard me praise them as long as I can remember. Um, but yeah, man, I'd probably say a word to describe this year for me has probably been grateful, gratitude. You can throw appreciation in there.
Yeah.
Like, man, those things are just, man, that's why I say next year I'm looking forward to progressing in these areas in my life where that mean a lot to me and doing that, showing some appreciation and gratitude to them in a reversal way is what I want to do, right?
That's awesome. Yeah. So I guess like what I think it's good to pause there for a minute instead of just rushing past it because I think gratitude is something that you can quickly forget about it, but being able to reflect and to realize the people you do have in your life and to see what it is that they've done for you and even understand that like maybe they just do it because it's part of their nature, but like that there's something about you that they appreciate that enables them to continue to do for you and to continue to like pour into you, especially in the times that you might feel like I don't deserve it or this. And it's like
Right.
sometimes it's not about what you deserve. You get what you're given and all you have to do is accept it sometimes and keep it moving. And then when the opportunity maybe comes for you to do, then maybe you can do for someone else. But a lot of times it's just like, even if you're not comfortable with receiving, you just, you have to allow other people to give to you. And I think that's almost a gift in itself because then they're encouraged to like have their efforts appreciated.
You're spot on. I think one of the biggest things I learned in college, and this I haven't spoken to this individual in, man, forever, probably since I graduated, to be honest. But it's probably last time I saw him. But one of his last speeches that he gave to our fraternity in his graduating semester.
Mm,
He gave this long speech, and he ended it with a statement that I've probably literally been using in my life for the last 6, 7 years. And it's you meet people or sorry, I'm phrases. People come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime,
mm,
and that has never rang true than the things that I've experienced over the last, honestly, since I moved to Nashville. Those
yeah.
things have never rang more true, and and they've never been more vividly true. To might I add, they've never. It's been so contrasting to see that meaning exemplified through people and through people you come across and people you get close with, and
Mm,
those things. I'm telling you, man, that statement is in the back of my head 85%, 90% of the time. And honestly, yeah, man, that's why I always believe in, you know, you meet people for a reason,
mm,
obviously, but that reason could be anything.
yeah.
People are in your life for either a season, and they're people that you're meant to be with and live with forever, for your entire lifetime, right?
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful statement, but it's so true that a lot of people forget that, and it gives kind of like a way to not group people,
Mm,
but it gives you a way to like kind of like take a step back, like you said, reflect on some of those relationships that you have had in the past,
mm,
or those relationships that you may have in the future, or
right.
those relationships that you have going on right now. So you're able to really kind of hone in and see that with that kind of statement. And honestly, it's just a great way to reflect for me.
Yeah. Man, that's a great point.
Yeah.
For how can someone get in touch with you if they want to connect with you and anything you may have going forward?
Yeah. So I'm on social media. My all my handles are all the same. So amped24 AMPED. AMP is my initials. ED24 on Instagram, Twitter, all that. Look me up on Facebook, Austin Perkins. I'm here for any type of resource. I'm here to. If people just want to talk life, if people want to just talk experiences, or just need someone to just have a different perspective on or anything, I'm here. I can relate to pretty much almost anyone in any situation, and that's one of my biggest strengths is being able to be relatable.
Mm,
So if someone's got something out there that's going on, someone hears this message, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm really easygoing. I'm not gonna blow you off or just leave you on red or anything like that. Please reach out to me. I'm here to help. I still believe in being helpful is the best way in doing right in this world. There's so much wrong in this world and so much evil, and it's so easy to live a life of just being nice and being, you know, faithful in that aspect. And I believe in that. So if
yeah.
there's anyone out there with anything that they want to discuss or pressing or anything, I'm all ears and I'm here to help.
Awesome. And they say evil only prevails when good men do nothing.
Bingo. Exactly. You're
And
exactly right.
from the first question I asked you, are you still who you said you were?
Yeah, I agree with that. That's how I am.
Awesome. I'd say you are too. It was a very inspiring conversation to be had with you. You warmed my heart and kind of took me back down memory lane and
Yeah.
reminded me about parts of myself that it's like you've gone through a good bit of life, but it continues to evolve and kind of helps you see more of yourself and be able to really step into who you are, attract the right people, and just open yourself up to the joys of life.
And I'll throw an aspect in there too as well. You got to hold yourself to the highest standard that you see in others. You got to see that to you for yourself too. Because
Mm,
another way to get the best, you got to do that to yourself, right?
yeah.
So you got to hold yourself accountable. You got to be transparent with yourself, and that's been my two words this whole year. All my friends will tell you, all my coworkers will tell you. accountability and transparency. Those are my two biggest things. As
Mm.
long as you keep those two at the forefront of evaluating your friendships, relationships, and yourself, the goodness and everything else will come right behind it.
How would how would you suggest someone remain accountable and be transparent um without like, I don't know if I'd say overdoing it or just like missing the mark in
Yeah.
making that effort?
That's a tough question. I love that. Thank you for asking that. Honestly, you know your limits. You got to give grace where you can, but
Mm.
you got to know you got to be up and go be successful. I got a group of friends that I hold very highly, and we all are always talking about accountability. We're always talking about ways to be better every single day, and how do we do that, right?
Mm.
And if you're like, we can't measure each other's growth and what that looks like for ourselves or each other, but you have to do that for yourself. You can't. I can't measure what you need for yourself to go be great and be successful, but I can do that for myself.
Mm.
And I think that's kind of, the ultimate thing when you're being transparent with yourself, being honest. My biggest thing is Saturdays, I'm not working out, man. I'm tired. I don't want to do it. And I know that. So if I know that, excuse me, I'm not going to eat bad through the week.
Mm.
I'm not going to, I'm not going to, I'm going to be as active as I can through Monday and Friday. I know
Mm.
Saturdays I'm going to be lazy. I know Saturdays I'm going to do that, but I've allowed that in my life. That way I'm going to hold myself accountable through
Mm.
that week, right? And then when you do that, you'll build that
A
this
muscle.
repetition, right? Muscle memory, yes.
Yeah.
You'll build that, and you'll take it step by step further. There's multiple people out there that believe in that same kind of idea and ideology that repetition creates. Um, what's the term I'm looking for? Repetition creates. Uh, I can't think of. I can't. It's on the tip of my tongue. I can't think of it, but it creates that consistency in your schedule and consistency in who you are.
Mm.
And then when you're holding yourself to that same standard, you will see the life that you want to live. You will see that increase
Mm.
tenfold as long as you're doing it for yourself. I've done that. It's worked for me. I've seen multiple people do the same thing and it's worked. Maybe you're doing it the right way. Maybe you're not seeing the results. Maybe you're cheating somewhere that you're not seeing. Maybe you're leaving a part out that you
Mm.
haven't accounted for, right? All these things kind of go into that, and you got to be the best person to be that, to go
Mm.
and see that in yourself. And man, it's like I said, I think it's hard being accountable to yourself, but you're your best critic. You're your own critic. You know what you need,
Yeah.
right? And you can look yourself in the mirror and tell yourself these things, but at the end of the day, you're not failing me. You're not you're not a failure or disappointing your friends. But every time you would get up in that mirror and you look at yourself and you didn't see that growth that you wanted to see 6 months in, you have no one to blame but the person that you're looking at,
Yeah.
right? And that's where it starts, you know. And maybe you need a friend to hold you accountable, right? Maybe you need a partner that does that. Maybe you have a partner that doesn't do that. Then maybe it's time to look at reevaluating your partnerships and friendships and relationships and getting someone that does that,
Yeah.
right? And then you can see that create a whole new aspect of life for you, and honestly put you in a space that's areas where you never even thought you'd be at, right?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if
That's
that answers the question, but
that answers the question. I'll just leave this part on here that was difficult for me, but it was a practice that it's a good daily practice when you look in the mirror instead of starting to attack yourself of what you're not doing, what you should be doing, what you could be doing, whatnot, is start looking in the mirror and looking into your eyes and learn to tell yourself that you love you, even if you don't believe it. And as the more you say it, it may start to convict you into what are the things that you would do that would actually display love to yourself. Like if you're harming yourself, like if you really love yourself, like how can you put a pause on the harm, or what would be something that would be healthy? Like if it's winter's coming, take your vitamin D. If you need to get outside, get some sunlight while we still have it. And if it's stretch, walk to the mailbox, even
Whatever.
just roll over out of bed. It's one of those things where I know you don't feel like it, and I know you could tell yourself that you're back here again, it's Groundhog's Day, whatever it is, but it's like you got here. So it's like it hasn't always been this bad, and
Right.
you've managed this much. You can manage a little bit more, but remember you got to care about you too.
You're exactly right. I want to mention one thing too that you said that I really loved, and I thought about this too. And I'm probably going to incorporate in my own daily life. Is you can create a structure within your daily ritual, even like that. If you're having ways of struggling to being accountable,
Mm,
don't get the first thing we all do. We're in a generation where our cell phones are the biggest connection to us.
mm,
I do it. I'm sure you do it. We all do it. As soon as we wake up, the first thing we're checking our phones.
yeah.
What if there's a way we wake up every morning and the only thing we look at, the first thing we look at is ourselves in the mirror
Mm,
and not ourselves through comparisons on social media, not looking at ourselves through our phone on Twitter, not looking at ourselves through other social media apps that consistently create comparisons that create envy in ourselves. That way, when you go to the bathroom or you go to the mirror,
mm,
you're already disgusted and looking at yourself,
mm,
right? So I'm gonna start doing it probably. Um, the first thing I'm doing now is probably not looking at my phone when I wake up.
yeah.
Probably gonna go in the mirror in my bathroom and tell someone say 5 positive things about myself before
Mm,
I walk out and get on my cell phone or start my day. Because that right there will change. It'll change exactly so much more that it'll change so much that you didn't even think you could do. Your mindset will shift completely, right?
yeah.
I'm going to start doing that, right?
I
And
love it.
I encourage anyone who hears this message to do the exact same and just do a week over week comparison. Compare the last week to this week and see how you feel, or a month to month and see how you feel.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much today, Austin. It was a
Yeah,
pleasure talking with you.
of course, Asher. And I'm glad you had me, man. I'm glad to be on here and give a little bit of knowledge that I got. So
Awesome.